Hi. So today I'm going to be talking about whether or not bisexuals should go to pride festivals. And this video is sponsored by Fluid Style Co., which is a clothing company I'm involved with. It's a clothing company for bisexuals, and they're the ones who paid for me to go to the pride festivals. And if you'd like to follow the company, there's a link to the Instagram page below. The clothing will be coming out in September, and you can follow them until it does. You can also sign up for their newsletter, and you can find out through that as well. Link below. Also, this is your last opportunity to vote for your favorite bisexual character in the Bisexual Representation Awards. This is your opportunity to tell Hollywood that you're watching and that you care. The link is below as well. Now, should bisexuals go to pride festivals? I'm going to break this down into three parts. First, I'm going to talk about my background, what my perspective is on this. And then I'm going to talk about what your experience would have been if you would have gone to one of the pride festivals I went to. And then I'm going to talk about whether or not bisexuals should go in general. Now, my experience has always been that the pride festival is for gays and queer people. That has always been my impression. And the fact that I am not gay and I am not queer, I never thought there would be a purpose for me going. In fact, I felt like I should stay away from it because you know how it is, how many people try to conflate bisexuality with queerness. And I was bisexual. I don't want to perpetuate that. Queerness exists. Bisexuality exists. They're two separate things. So I've always had that philosophy, so I've never had a desire to go and help kind of make that thing one. But past that, I live in Los Angeles, and there's a part of Los Angeles called West Hollywood. West Hollywood is Boys Town. And that's the committee of West Hollywood committee is the one that kind of throws the Pride Parade. Now, I know West Hollywood, they've been around for 30 or 40 years, and they have an advisory board, and on the advisory board, they have gay people, they have lesbians, they have trans people, but for their history, 30, 40 years, they have refused to put bisexuals on the advisory board. Refused. In fact, it didn't change until last year when a group of bisexuals decided to protest them that they finally capitulated and included bisexuals on their advisory board. So knowing that resistance exists, and also there's a bi group in Los Angeles who decided to, actually every year they have a float in the Pride Parade. The very first time they did it, they were booed. Gay people booed their float. Not everyone, but there were enough boos going around that they were going, they noticed it, and they felt bad because of it. And granted, that was the first time, and it only happened the first time, and since then it's been much better. But knowing that this is the attitude of gay people in this town makes me like, that paints my impression of pride, anything. And that's where I'm coming into this with. Now this year, what was the difference? The difference is that I created the Bisexual Representation Awards, and Fluid Style Co. agreed to pay for me to go to Boston, to go to Denver, to San Francisco, and San Diego to get votes for the Bisexual Representation Awards. Is that just completely awesome? Again, this is why you should support Fluid Style Co. The link is below. So I went there, and I learned a couple of things from this. First of all, I always thought of Pride as being the parade. Like that's what I thought Pride was. But no, there are three aspects to every Pride festival weekend. There is the parade, which usually happens on a Sunday, but sometimes it happens on a Saturday. And that's usually a couple of hours long. The other part is the music festival part of it, where they have like singers and bands that the group is either like gay, like all the members are gay, or something trans, or maybe they're just like really strong allies or something like that. So it's a music festival. And then there's the thing called the marketplace. Now the marketplace are where all the booths are at. So there are three types of booths at a Pride festival. There's the booths with corporations in it, so like McDonald's or Bacardi Rum or like Wells Fargo. They get booths to show like gay people or people attendees that they acknowledge their existence and that they would like to be there for them as to supply them with food, alcohol, or loans, type of thing. So the corporations, there's the small businesses like I was selling books, like my bisexual romance books. So I was there with that. And next to me at one of the festivals was a booth where they sold socks called Pride socks, and they had like rainbow stripes on them. Cool socks, and I love those ladies. They were super fun to hang out with. So there are little companies like that. And then thirdly, like there are educational booths or informational booths. So for example, like Bisexual Resource Center was an educational booth for bisexuals at one of them. There was people recruiting you to join the Army or the FBI or the police force. And there was one booth there that said, meet a naked man. So those are the type of informational booths that are there. So that's what you kind of see. What would have been your experience as you as a bisexual would have gone to these various Pride festivals? So Boston was the first one I went to. It was a one-day event. And if you would have gone, you would have seen like there were maybe like 50 or 60 booths. And there was 2 booths that had anything to do with bisexuality. That would be my booth. So if you come to my booth, you would have been able to purchase one of my bisexual romances. You could have voted for your favorite bisexual character in the Bisexual Representation Awards. And you could have gotten, if you did vote, you would have gotten one of these handy-dandy bracelets with the bisexual flag colors on it that says FluidStyle Co. on it. So that would have been my booth. And then there was, in Boston, the Bisexual Resource Center booth. They, I think, were giving away either like flags, little small flags, or they were giving away t-shirts, not quite sure. But they were busy. They're mostly giving away information about bisexuality, about their resource center, how you can join, how you can be a part, all that stuff. They were busy. In fact, at the end of the day, I went over to say hi. And I couldn't because the table was packed 2 people deep. So I couldn't, like I would have had to stand there waiting too long to come over and just said hello to someone. So instead I just kind of like acknowledged their existence and then walked back to my booth and got back to work. So that would have been your experience going to Boston Pride. On top of that, you would have seen a number of young people, by young people I say people on the age of 17, so like 16, 15, 14, 13, 12 sort of thing. People walking around with flags tied as capes. And there were quite a few. Like of the young people walking around with capes, there were a lot of bisexual flags and pansexual flags, actually. So that would have been your experience at Boston. In Denver, and I gotta say, Denver was my favorite. Why? Because the park was really nice and the music was great and it was just set up really well. It's also very busy. But as a bisexual, you could have engaged in 3 different things. One being my booth, PAVES, which is a local group in Denver, a bisexual like education and social group in Denver, had I think they shared a booth with someone. I tried to look for, like I talked to the guys there quite a bit. Hey, if you're watching. And then I enjoyed meeting them. And I went over to try and find the booth, but I could not find the booth, so I couldn't tell you what it was like. But also in Denver, they had an LGBT center that had a booth. And one of the guys came over and talked to me. He was bisexual. And he said that this year he had convinced the LGBT center to not just have buttons for, I think it was buttons like with rainbow flags or buttons with gay sayings on it, but to have a bisexual button. And he said that those bisexual buttons were gone in the first couple hours of the very first day in this 2-day festival. So I think it's safe to say that specifically this one, the proportion of gay to bisexuals was the highest amount of bisexuals. Doesn't mean like half the people were bisexual. It just means like maybe potentially a third were bisexual, potentially. So that was Denver. It just felt like a city festival, actually. Like it felt like it was just like a festival for people who were not, or people who were different. It was pleasant. I would have gone if I were in Denver just because it was just a nice festival. So San Francisco. San Francisco was the largest of the 4 I've gone to. There were streets and streets of stuff, and there were probably like 200 booths. It could have been 300 booths. It was just too much. I couldn't walk around. I couldn't see, so I don't know for sure. But there was just like streets and streets of them. And as a bisexual, if you would have gone there, you would have seen one booth that had anything to do with bisexuality. One booth, and that is my booth. On top of that, opening ceremonies, they say, there was a guy on stage and he was saying, I'd like to welcome the gay guys. I'd like to welcome the lesbians. I'd like to welcome the trans people. And I'd like to welcome the bisexuals. They get upset if you don't mention them, so we have to mention them. Ha 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 ha. Other words, bisexuals aren't naturally a part of the group. It's just that we have to mention it because if we don't, we get flack for it. So here's me mentioning it, even though naturally I wouldn't have. That's the subtext of what the person said. Like it's clear when you go to San Francisco Pride that this is not for you. Like they're not interested in you being there. They don't care if you're there. You know, they begrudgingly admit that maybe bisexual is a part of the LGBT community sort of thing. But yeah, that was your experience. That would be your experience. There's still people walking around with pride flags, bi flags around them and stuff like that. But proportionally speaking, that would be the lowest amount. Denver's the highest amount, whereas that would be the lowest. Supposedly 1.2 million people went to the Pride Parade, and there were just like a handful of bisexuals in that huge crowd of everyone else. So that's San Francisco. San Diego, I can say for sure that not only was my booth the only bisexual related booth at San Diego Pride, but the bi flag hanging from my booth was the only bi flag associated with the event. So there was no flagpole with a bi flag on it. There was no booth that had a bi flag or that was selling a bi flag or had like, I think there was might have been one that had some sort of hanging something that happened to have the bi flag colors. I don't even know if that was purposeful or not. But no, the only kind of interaction with bisexuality you would have had, you know, associated with the festival would have been my booth. So those would have been your experiences going through the various Pride festivals that I went to. Now the question is, should you go as a bisexual? Now I would say that it depends on why you're going. So let's say, for example, that you are a person in a same-sex relationship. If you are, I would say go. I think the purpose of the festival, like, or at least if it's not the purpose, it's certainly one of the highest benefits of the festival, is that it's a place where if you don't feel like you completely fit into everyday society at your core, this is where you can go and fit in. So that goes for more than just people who are in same-sex relationships. So if you are, let's say, into leather fetish, there are a lot of people walking around in Pride festivals with like leather fetish clothing on. There are people walking around with leather dog masks. I don't get the fetish. Like I literally just don't understand anything about it. Like I understand zero about it. But there were a lot of them walking around. If you were, you know, part of the Free the Nipple campaign, Denver, there were a lot of Free the Nipplers in Denver. If you in San Francisco were amongst the Free the Penis campaign, there were a number of guys walking around who had their penis out, sort of thing. So if you're a person who you feel like who you are at your core, whether it's because of your sexual orientation or your gender expression or, you know, just a fetish, Pride festivals are a great place to go. You'll feel accepted and stuff like that. So that's that. If you are a person who are just looking to date someone of the same gender, again, Pride Festival is a great place to go. If you are a queer person and you're going, well, if you're going for validation, okay, here's where it gets kind of tricky, because if you would have gone to Boston and gone to Denver, I feel that with my booth and with the educational booths, you would have gotten balated. You would have seen us, you would have been able to talk to us, you would have seen the flag, and you would have felt, okay, well, bisexuality exists and at this festival, and I feel validated for having come. If you went to San Francisco or San Diego, if you just happened to miss my booth, you would have felt completely invalidated, especially in San Francisco with that dude up there thinking he was so funny with the whole bisexual comment. Yeah, way to go. Way to make people feel validated, dude. So yeah, so if you've gone to those two as a queer person, even though you are queer and this is like a super queer event, depending on where you go, depends on whether or not you would feel validated. Now, if you are a typical bisexual, and by typical I mean you are mostly straight, because again, the vast majority of bisexuals are mostly straight bisexuals, there really isn't a reason for you to go. Like if you feel comfortable in straight society, if you feel comfortable in everyday society, and this festival is for a place where people who don't feel comfortable in everyday society can go and feel comfortable, then you kind of don't have a reason to go. Like you don't, except if you want to people watch. I can tell you that people watching was pretty incredible. The people who walked by, like, just human society is so unique and so different that if you went there just to kind of look around and just see people, yeah, go, because it's definitely a place to check that out. So that would be my opinion. If you're in a same-sex relationship, or if you want to be in a same-sex relationship, Pride Festival is a place to go. If you're a queer person and you're going there because you're just interested, go. If you're going looking for validation, I would say they could be hit or miss where you get the validation from. If you're typical bisexual, mostly straight bisexual, then honestly, unless you're interested in people watching, then there's no reason for you to go to a Pride Festival. But I have to say, as a mostly straight bisexual, in the position I was, like behind the booth, meaning like bisexuals in the groves were coming over and saying hello to me, and we were chatting and talking and we were interacting. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I got a chance to meet some of you guys, my viewers. I got a chance to meet people, readers of my books, like people who just kind of showed up and went, "Oh my God, I read your book," sort of thing. People who were just like curious, asking questions and stuff. I remember there was one guy who came over. Honestly, he was acting like kind of a dick. He came over and he kept saying, like, bisexuality isn't real, right? But he wasn't saying it in such a way that was dickish. So I was willing to give him some of my time and not kind of shoo him away. But the interesting thing was that he went from going like, bisexual isn't real, right? And then, well, but bisexual is just this thing, right? To, okay, so if you're doing this, then are you bisexual? To, so I'm dating this girl and I have attractions to guys. Do you think I should tell her? She'd leave me, right? Like, it went from disparaging bisexuals to, okay, well, I'm bisexual and I'm dating this girl. How do I navigate this? It was incredible. It was just incredible. And there was another story would be, I remember there was a group of guys walking by, and one of the guys sees my booth, sees the flag and stuff like that, and he turns to one of the guys in the group and says, "Hey, look, Josh, this booth is for you, a bisexual." And from the response of the guy, like, it wasn't like the guy turned around and went, "Oh yeah, it is," and came over and like started interacting and stuff. He kind of just like shrunk, which gave me the impression that like this person was doing it, like the person who called him out was making fun of him, like teasing him, saying, "Oh yeah, like, you're sure bisexuals exist? In fact, there's a booth right there for you. That's a bisexual booth. That's for you." Like, it did not feel pleasant. And then there was another time, like a group of women were walking by who clearly from their gender expression came across as lesbian, and they were just walking by, and one of them like just turned and saw my booth and just kind of went, and like just like she was just seemed to be like dumbfounded by seeing this, and no one said anything. Like, the rest of them just kept walking, but she just kept staring. And then later on, I saw her again, like she was sitting up on a hill directly across from my booth, and she was just like staring. And I got such the impression, like, kind of made me sad that it felt like she clearly wanted to come over and interact with me. But the fact that she was with her lesbian friends made her feel like she couldn't. Like, it was just kind of sad. It was, yeah. And then, of course, there were times like, there was someone else with a booth with me a couple of times, and they mentioned a number of times when, and I didn't see this, but they said that they saw like clearly like gay guys walking by, and they saw the booth, and they would just like look away with derision, like, as if to say, "Oh, bisexuals," sort of thing. I didn't see it, but apparently he saw it like multiple times. So my experiences were positive in terms of getting to meet everyone and to say hi and stuff like that. I would certainly go back to, I'd definitely go back to Denver again, because that was just a pleasant experience. Just generally speaking, like, everything about it was just pleasant. Might go back to Boston. San Francisco, I might go back, but geez, they got to work on stuff. They really, it's just, they got to do better. They have to do better. So if you're going to go, and I'll say this, I think that, a part of what's going on with like San Francisco and San Diego is that bisexual is still just coming into the lexicon of society. People are just kind of embracing the fact that bisexuals exist. So people aren't yet used to the idea that, maybe you shouldn't just put a rainbow flag up maybe you should put a bisexual flag up. Maybe if you did that, more people would come over and talk to you and you buy your products and stuff like that. And if the Pride festivals made a larger effort to embrace bisexuality, maybe they would have, more booths kind of interacting with bisexuality as well, like interacting with the concept of bisexuality as well. So yeah, so that's my opinion. I hope this helps. I will be going back to Pride festivals next year, simply because we're going to be doing the Bisexual Representation Awards again next year, and I'm looking for votes. Now, if you would like to support the channel, and if you'd like to support like the opportunity for a bisexual to be at these festivals again, check out Fluid Style Co. It's a clothing company, as I said, for bisexuals, and if you'd like to follow along the process, you can check out the Instagram section below. Now, the Bisexual Representation Awards, they are about to be announced. So if you'd like to vote, this is your last opportunity to do it. I am in the process right now of creating the awards. I will say confidently that the awards for the Bisexual Representation Awards are going to be the most beautiful awards given out anywhere. Thank you, GLAAD, for the support you gave me. Our award is going to be more attractive. Just saying. It'll be more attractive than the Academy Awards. It'll be a super attractive thing. In fact, one of the goals that I had was I don't want to make it something that you just put on a shelf somewhere, like your trophy shelf or your banner or whatever else that people look at and go, oh, you won an award for something. I wanted this to be something that is so beautiful that you would just want to put it on a coffee table and just be a centerpiece for your work. In fact, what I'm doing is I'm working with a local artist, and they are creating the awards, and each one's going to be handmade, and it's going to be beautiful. So look forward to the announcement of Bisexual Representation Awards coming in the next few weeks. It'll be very fun once it all happens out. And if you'd like to support the channel, again, you can check out my t-shirts on Amazon. Proud to say this is now the most popular bisexual t-shirt on Amazon. You can check out that. That's in the link below. And you can check out my books. Also, you can give this video a thumbs up and subscribe. I do many videos on bisexual topic. Usually do them on Sunday, but in either case, I do them on a fairly regular basis. So if you'd like to know when a video comes out, you can hit the subscribe button and also hit the bell, and that will let YouTube know that you'd like to know when a new video comes out. Till next video, stay cooler, my bisexual friend. Stay cooler. Bye.